time saying the United States government is still looking into who is responsible for this. And I know David Ensor is standing by with more information. White House officials saying their early indications are that they believe, and David may have more information, that these attacks are linked to the suspected terrorist Osama bin Laden. Judy?
All right, John, you are right. David Ensor, our national security correspondent here in the studio in Washington. David, I know you've been on the telephone. What have you been able to learn?
U.S. officials are saying that they now have new and specific information, and they say this information is good indications that people with links to Osama bin Laden may have been responsible for these attacks. I asked, is this new information that's come in since the attacks? Yes, it is. Is it specific in nature? Yes, it is. Now, they're not completely eliminating the possibility that the attacks could have come from somewhere else, not ruling out a Saddam Hussein-inspired attack or some kind of combination of Palestinian groups or some other combination, but good indications that people with links to bin Laden may have been behind the attack, and this is new and specific information, the officials say. They are also expressing a certain amount of what I think is best described as anger at the comments by the Afghan government, by the Taliban government, by Wakil Ahmed Mutawakel and Mullah Omar, the leaders over there who have commented today, in which they deny that Osama bin Laden has ever organized terrorism out of Afghan territory. One official calling that lies. Lies, lies, lies. And there's a certain amount of black humor also now setting in as, like other Americans, national security officials, intelligence officials, the first thing they felt when they saw what's happening and what we're looking at on our screen here was shock. But that is turning now to anger. And when I asked whether there were considerations being given to some sort of retaliation against targets in Afghanistan, one official said, "I wouldn't be planning your vacation there if I were you."
David Ensor, just quickly, when they describe this new and specific information, do you know enough about the kinds of sources or the kinds of the methods here that you could characterize where this information might be coming from or in what form?
Well, they are not saying anything specific about exactly what the nature of this information is, as you can expect, Judy. However, when I talk to officials about the kinds of information that they would be gathering now, they confirm that that information includes passenger lists of the aircraft that were downed, videotape at airports from cameras, from security cameras in the airports. In a few days, they will have cockpit recordings. And there's also a limited number of people who are suspected of belonging to terrorist groups who are known to be able to fly aircraft. And it looks as if at least some of the personnel involved in this plot must have been able to do that in order to carry off this set of attacks, Judy.
Absolutely chilling to hear you say that, David, that there are people in these organizations, and we now know it, who could fly commercial jetliners to do these horrible, unspeakable acts that have been committed today in the United States. And now, as we look at live pictures of New York City, where the smoke still billows from the location of the World Trade Center's buildings that were 100 stories high, now completely decimated. Smoke coming from those buildings 6 hours after the collapse of these Twin Towers. To Atlanta and to my colleague Joey Chan.
Judy, we want to bring our viewers up to date. Of course, it's just after the top of the hour, and many people are probably tuning in at the top of the hour trying to understand the events of the day. So we want to bring you up to date on what we know, what we've been able to learn throughout the course of the day's events. There were two airliners just about 18 minutes apart this morning, which crashed into the Twin Towers of the World Trade Center at separate times. Both planes apparently had been hijacked. One of them was an American Airlines flight. The other is believed to have been a United Airlines aircraft. Now, the buildings collapsed not long after the attacks, and as you see, the people in the streets below just were rained on with the debris from these collapsing buildings. There are tens of thousands of people in these buildings on any given day at the World Trade Center, but officials say they do not yet know how many people may have been killed, and they do not want to venture a guess until they know more, until they have more solid information about what's happening. Again, the effort still to control the fire at the World Trade Center. Now, about a half hour after the second attack in New York, an American Airlines jet crashed into the Pentagon building. You see it there. Again, the plane was believed to have been hijacked as well. The building has burned throughout the day as firefighters have worked, trying very hard to get the blaze under control. Parts of the Pentagon building, you see it there, have collapsed. The casualties there are expected to be high, but again, we don't have any firm numbers yet on that. About the same time, a fourth plane was hijacked this morning. This one was believed to be a United flight from Newark, New Jersey, bound for San Francisco, and then it crashed in western Pennsylvania, about 80 miles south-southeast of Pittsburgh. Again, CNN continuing to follow up on all fronts. We want to return now to New York, and from his rooftop vantage point, CNN's Aaron Brown. Aaron?
Joey, thank you. Shimon Peres, the Israeli foreign minister, has been active in Israeli governments for as long as most of us can remember, and has witnessed more of these terrorist attacks than any of us should experience. He joins us now to talk about this one. Good evening, sir. Thank you for joining us.
Good evening. Thank you.
Before, sir, we get to any of the specific questions, let me just ask you first, if I may, for a reaction to what has taken place here.
Our heart is with America, and our heart is with the thousands of families that have lost their children, their brothers, mothers. For Israel, it's a day of mourning. We announced that tomorrow the whole nation will be mourning. And I'm sure that as bitter and painful the event is, the only one that can save humanity from this terrible danger is the United States of America. It was not an attack only upon America, but an attack upon civilization, an attempt to introduce the rules of jungle in our life, not to permit people to fly freely, to walk safely, to be assured at the places they live. It is like a declaration of war or an introduction of a terrible arm, and we have to draw all the conclusions fully, uncompromisingly, and right away.
Sir, you have been a soldier, a leader of a country. You have been privy to some of the most detailed intelligence reports there are out there. Are you surprised by the sophistication that must have been at play to carry out these attacks?
It's a sophistication of the most evil kind. You know, only evil people can arrive to such a sophistication. And the measures must be radical as the evil itself. I think what should be done is to identify every country that hosts or supports terror and declare those countries as terrorist countries. I think there must be a call to all religious leaders, Christian, Muslim, Jewish, to condemn fully, without an excuse, all the suicidal bombers, suicidal persons, who in order to kill others, they kill themselves. It's against the basis of our life. It's against the gospels of every believer. And then again, we have to organize ourselves globally, because we are going over from a world of enemies, where you have had armies to face them, to a world of global dangers that we don't have yet neither a strategy nor an army to stop it. We have to get ourselves organized properly and fully and immediately.
Mr. Foreign Minister, I hope you'll answer this. Let me ask it anyway. Did the government of Israel have any intelligence prior, any indications prior that something like this might happen?
Not specifically. We have had warnings, and there are all the time warnings. But we know, and all of us are aware of some of the addresses from where terror can origin. But anyway, I don't have any specific information, and I wouldn't like to blame anybody without full knowledge.
I understand that, and let me then, just for the record, ask the logical follow-up, which is, since the attacks themselves, has Israeli intelligence picked up any information that suggests who might be involved in this?
Any information we shall have, we shall hand over immediately to our American friends. And we also send right now, a plane with our rescue team, which is already on the way. Whatever we shall be able to do, or we can do, in order to be of help, we shall do it full-heartedly, without any reservations. Permit me to say that today each of us feels American, like an American, with all the seriousness, all the pains, and all the determination.
Sir, do you have any doubt in your mind that the root of this attack on the United States today, the root of it took place in the Middle East, that the events in the Middle East, the organizations in the Middle East, do you believe that to be the case?
I think we have to bring an end to the conflict in the Middle East, but there were already acts of terror in the United States disconnected from the Middle East, and there are in many other places the same story. We have to put an end to terror because it's a danger to every person and every country, no matter where it is. So the reasons are important, but the attraction to use terror in order to kill, in order to threaten, is existing everywhere. It's not connected to a specific case or specific place.
Sir, thank you. Shimon Peres, the Israeli foreign minister, a long-time Israeli leader in any number of governments, joining us from Jerusalem tonight, where it is a little bit after 11 o'clock, about 10 minutes after 11. Thank you, sir, for joining us. We are getting information now that one of the other buildings, Building 7, in the World Trade Center complex, is on fire and has either collapsed or is collapsing. And you, to be honest, can see these pictures a little bit more clearly than I. But building number 7, one of the buildings in this very large complex of buildings that is the Trade Center, there were, and that is the right way to put it, there were the 2 towers, but then there are a number of support buildings around it, retail spaces, restaurants, office space, garages. The trains come in from New Jersey, bringing commuters, taking commuters back, come into the complex that is the World Trade Center. And now we are told that there's a fire there, and that building may collapse as well, as you can see. We can see, as we look now back downtown, we can see the billowing smoke. It is extraordinary to us, I guess, is how long this scene has gone on. The smoke has not cleared at all. It has not lightened at all. There was that horrific moment when the towers collapsed, and then we've been in this sort of situation ever since, as the fires continue to burn. Rose Arce, one of our producers who has been slowly and diligently making her way to the building, described the fires that she saw in the area of the towers themselves, and clearly those fires continue to burn at about 4:15 Eastern Daylight Time today, in an unbelievable and awful scene in New York. Judy?
Aaron, for those of us who don't know that area of Lower Manhattan, you are explaining something that is important, because I think the belief had been that there were just the 2 towers, but you're now telling us that there are several other buildings that make up the complex of buildings. And as Aaron is just saying, and we're hearing for the first time, one of these support buildings is on the verge of collapse, if it has not already collapsed. It looks to me, as it may to Aaron as well, with these live pictures, that smoke is so black that it may be the result of a fresh part of this terrible disaster. But it is only speculation at this point. We evidently don't have anyone on the phone down there that we can get to right this moment. But of course, when we do, we will tell you what is going on. We do know that every effort is being made by New York emergency authorities to get people out. But you also heard our producer Rose Arce say not too long ago that even the emergency personnel cannot get close because debris is falling at a steady rate within a 2-block radius around the Trade Center. And even their most heartfelt efforts to get in there and rescue people. They just can't do it because the risk is too great. We're going to continue to watch this horrific scene in New York City as we bring you up to date on what has been happening here in Washington. The Congress